Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. So today I'm joined by the beautiful Britt. Britt, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing very well. It's such an honor to have you here. But Britt, before we talk about why you're here, I would like the people that don't know you to get to know you real quick. You started your account to talk about books and movies that you were into because you didn't have anybody in your real life that you could talk about those things with in depth. The struggle is real. I totally understand that. Um, you did host a horror podcast later on in the year. It didn't quite work out, but that everything happens for a reason. And now you're also reviewing horror shows for the Deadbeats podcast. So first off, let's talk about the Instagram page because that's how you and I connected. What gave you the boost to want to be like, yes, this is what I would like to do?
I like to talk. And so I just wanted to talk to people that were into the same things that I were into, that I'm into, because where I'm at, there's not anybody around this area that's really into horror that much.
I had someone today tell me they liked my Jason shirt.
Oh,
So I totally understand. And you guys, I do have the links for that in the description. I can't recommend it enough. Her and I actually connected through Instagram, and I think that she's a wonderful artist. And I think the things that she's doing, you can tell that she's very, very passionate about the things that she does, and that's why I wanted to extend the olive branch and try to get her on here to talk about how horror started for her and why it means so much to her. But I want to talk about the podcast a little bit, the Deadbeats podcast. What can you tell us a little bit about the Deadbeats?
the Deadbeats podcast is two guys, Will and JT, and they do all horror movies. They're really funny too, which I love because I like to try and make horror funny too, and I review horror TV shows specifically for them.
Okay. What are some of the TV shows that you've done so far?
Yellow Jackets has been my favorite. I'm doing Black Mirror right now. I did A Haunting of Hill House, Midnight Mass. I think that's what I've done so far.
Midnight Mass is a journey. I'm sorry you had to go through all that. I mean, not sorry you had to go through it because the show is amazing, but there's so many layers to that
I watched
show.
it
And
twice
oh, you have
because
to.
it's so much better the second time once you like know what you're getting into.
I know that bitch killed the dog.
Right?
I know. Knuckle sandwich. Um, yeah, and like I said, guys, you don't have to go far to find the Deadbeats podcast or to find her amazing Instagram page because all those links are down in the description. So please make sure you're subscribing to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast at, and make sure you're following her on Instagram so you can become a part of her family as well. But in order to do a podcast based around horror and to do all the art and the reading and stuff that you do with horror on your page, horror had to start for you somewhere, Britt. So now I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Britt, the first horror movie you watched was
Cabin Fever.
what a start to your horror life. Um, and just to make sure, we're talking about the Eli Roth version, correct? Not the
Yes.
newest remake.
No.
Okay, just want to make sure. I haven't seen it, so I can't, poo poo at it or anything. I have not. I'll be honest, I haven't watched it. But do you remember about how old you were when you seen Cabin Fever for the first time?
Yeah, I was 12. So I was a little bit older than a lot of people when they get into horror, but still too young to watch this movie.
And it's funny because we're going to talk about something here in a little bit, and being a 12-year-old, pre-teenager is really going to make sense as to why this happened. But, this is a very disgusting movie, especially when you're an adult and you're watching it. This is a big fear, something that's spread through the water. It's, that type of contagion, I think is tremendously scary. So, do you remember who you watched it with for the first time?
I watched it by myself.
Oof, oof. You are a brave, brave soul.
Well, so I didn't really know what I was getting into because I bought the DVD because Ryder Strong was in it and I loved Boy Meets World. And what a difference this movie was from Boy Meets World. And I just was like, oh, cool, a scary movie. I wasn't expecting what I saw.
You were like, Sean Hunter, what have you gotten yourself into? Man, I know you went on a road trip after dad died, but I didn't expect this. Holy shit. And it's funny because I'm a huge Boy Meets World fan as well, and I think that was something that drew all of us into watching this for the first time was the fact that Ryder Strong was in it. It was like, hey, Sean Hunter, hell yeah, I'm in. Then you were like, holy shit, get out of the water, Sean. But
Exactly.
this is a very impactful movie. It has a lot of very impactful scenes. Do you remember which scene it was, Britt, that affected you the most?
The same one that affected everybody else, the leg shaving scene.
And that's what I was getting at. You have a 12-year-old preteen girl that's really starting to get into, self-care and things like that. And then you see a movie like this where she's shaving her legs and it's like, maybe not. Maybe we can not do that ever because that's fucking terrifying. And it's the sound too. Like the
It,
sound.
that's what gets me is the sound.
Oh, it's so bad. Oh, it's so disgusting. And the way that she's just crying, it's like you can stop. There's no reason anymore.
Yeah, you
Like,
don't, it's okay. No one cares.
yeah, that's gonna be the least of their worries. You're not gonna walk into some place and they're gonna be like, "Oh my God, did you see her legs? That was disgusting. There was hair on them." Um, but it is a movie that causes a lot of there's nothing happy about this movie. Everything from the start to the end is just like a gut punch after gut punch after gut punch. So it's kind of hard, I know, to pick out a favorite scene. But is there a scene from Cabin Fever that you would say is your favorite scene from the film?
Um, so I don't have one specifically, but any scene that Deputy Winston is in is my favorite.
I understand that too. So, this is they do have three movies, I believe, now. They have this one, they have part two, which takes place at like prom or something, which
Yeah.
I've also never seen. And then the remake. So since this technically is part of a franchise, I gotta know, is this first one your favorite in the franchise?
Yeah, there is also a third one, Patient Zero, which I feel like nobody has seen. But yes, this is my favorite. I wouldn't recommend watching any of the other ones.
I'll say to be fair, I haven't seen any of the other ones. So I can't I'm one of those people that I've got to give it a fair shake before I, bash it or I praise it. And I haven't seen them, so I can't say anything. I think I saw part of the prom one and like this guy and girl were fooling around in the pool and then the blood happened. He's like, "Oh, you're behind your period." And I was like, "Oh, this movie's enough for me." I was done. And so like I don't know if that's really what happened or if it's just a memory I have, but I like remember that so well, and I really want to say that it's from Cabin Fever 2, but it could be from Dance of the Dead as well. I
Yeah, I
might
don't
be
remember the
close.
second one very much. I do remember the third one because they're hunting. Well, I guess I don't remember it, but I remember one specific scene because it's like the scene where Ryder Strong is with Jordan Ladd in bed, the
Mhm.
little mishap that he has like messing around with her. There's one kind of like that in that one.
We've all been there. Um, but this is a movie that I think has maybe the I think it's aged well with the scares. I think that the scares and the fear is still there. Maybe the dialogue hasn't aged so well in this film, but the kills are still great.
Yeah.
Do you remember which kill it was that affected you the most?
Um yeah, the girl that gets eaten by the dog. It happens so fast and then it's just her foot in a
Yeah,
sandal is left.
yeah, and it's bad boy. Really bad boy. Um, it's again, I went back and rewatched this movie. It had been probably 10 to 15 years since I'd watched this movie. And going back and rewatching it, I was just like, man, I cannot believe how gross this movie is, and I don't remember. Like, there's so much like, and then that ending, obviously, you're like, oh well, they're fucked. All right, everybody's dead now.
Yep.
And I'm in the boat that he did that on purpose. I'm just throwing that out there. I think that was totally purposeful. I think Ryder Strong with his last burst of energy was like, I'm gonna fuck this town over. Boom. But who knows? I didn't write the film, Mr. Roth. So like I said, this movie, Cabin Fever is a great start to your horror life, and this is honestly the first time I've gotten to talk about. This is episode 601, and this is the first time I've ever talked about cabin fever, but I do want to throw you a little bit of a curveball here for a second. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Britt? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
That is so hard. I give a different answer every time somebody asks me, but I think the one that I give most often is the original Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay.
I I love 70s horror, that's my favorite, and
Hmm.
it's it and, like, camp, I don't know, I think from watching I was watching Cabin Fever today, actually, and I was like, I think that a lot of what I like came from this, like, the woods and, like, campy, comedic kills and all of that, I think that I picked it up from Cabin Fever.
I agree. My first horror movie was House, and I still love horror comedy. I think that our first horror movie really puts the seed in us, and we go from there, and we just spread it, and we kind of look for that same thing over and over again. Um, but man, first Friday the 13th, one of my least favorites in that franchise. I'm so glad that there's
I
someone
hear
that
that
loves it.
so much.
Like, and it's, I think the big thing is that I the kills aren't there for me. All of them are below screen or off screen. And Friday the 13th is one of those franchises where the kills are so splendid throughout the franchise that you go back and you watch that first one and you're like, huh, they really didn't do much in the form of kills in this movie, except for obviously the Kevin Bacon kill, which is just absolutely insane that she waited under that bed for that long to be able to do that. But I do 100% agree that I think that without the first Friday the 13th, I still wouldn't be the horror fan I am today if we never had that movie. I don't think that would happen. But um, talking about back to Cabin Fever, we always talk about what this movie means to you and how much of an impact it had on you. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, zero to five, I should say, zero being the worst and five being the best, we're going to rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. All we're doing here, Britt, is ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Britt, what would your ranking of Cabin Fever be?
I think I'm gonna have to say 5 because it changed my life. Because I was never allowed to watch horror when I was younger. Like, I grew up in a house where we just didn't do that. So, like, kind of sneaking this into the house and watching it alone in my room and then being like, I didn't know movies were like this. This was my first time
Mm-hmm.
also seeing like sex in a movie also. So I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea movies could be like that.
And like I said, that's a huge jump going from The Land Before Time to Cabin Fever. It's quite the jump there, and it's quite a you really got to take that in. So I do want to say, Britt, thank you so much for joining me and talking about your first horror movie and your favorite horror movie. It really does mean a lot. Please don't go anywhere. I do got a couple more questions for you. Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.